I'm Ezra Levan. It's May 30th, and you're watching Battleground. Hello, my friends, and maybe a few enemies, too. Welcome to Battleground every day at 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 10 a.m. Alberta time, 9 a.m. British Columbia time. We talk for 1 hour, live, unscripted. We have some video clips sometimes, some news websites to show you. But the primary aspect of these noontime chats are just that, chat. In fact, Google has something called Super Chat that they've invented. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, hundreds of comments are being made by people. I try to read as many of those as I can, but if you want your comment to become a Super Chat comment for a couple of bucks, couple of pounds, whatever currency you're in, you can chip that in, and your comment is put in bright highlighted colors, and with a certain amount it's appended to the top of the screen. By the way, the Rebel gets that dough, so it helps us pay the bills over here. It's fun, it's live. Fun maybe is not the word for the shows this week. In past weeks, we've talked about rather silly things in the media, things that maybe aren't serious enough to merit coverage in my 8 p.m. show, which is behind a paywall. So we do lighter stuff. It's almost like chatting about tweets or something. But this week it has been heavy indeed. We've been talking about the case of our former employee, Tommy Robinson. He left us a few months ago to go independent, and then on Friday morning, as all of you know, he was whisked off the street by 7 police, and within minutes, well, actually from being whisked off the street to sent to prison, it was a matter of hours. But he was taken to court, not given access to his regular lawyer, given a duty lawyer, a public defender who did not know him, did not know the law of contempt of court. Tommy, as we have now learned, pled guilty. He was bulldozed into it from what I can detect. I'm certain of it, and I'll make the case for that. And he was sent off to Her Majesty's Prison, Hull, for 13 months. What I'm going to do today, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to play the video of his arrest just once. I've shown that earlier this week, but there may be some people who haven't seen it yet. And it's important for you to know this one fact. Before Tommy was arrested, he had been live streaming his commentary in front of the courthouse for more than an hour. I know that because I was watching it. I was curious. I mean, I still keep in touch with Tommy by watching his videos, and we've chatted a little bit since he left us. So I actually saw what he was doing before the police arrested him, and he was not causing a disturbance. He was not revealing any confidences about the trial. He was not on court property. I just want to play you very briefly the clip of his arrest, and then I will not play that video again because I'm sure most people have seen it. And I want to tell you what I have learned in the last 24 hours. I want to put to you 2 reasons that I think Tommy's sentence should be set aside. He should be granted bail. The matter should be rescheduled for a more formal hearing with proper lawyers. And I want to close today's show, and I'm going to try and do this all in the next 56 minutes. I'm going to close today's show by giving you a sample of my studies over the last day. I've been going through contempt of court rulings from the UK. I literally started with this month, and I've been working my way back reading. I've read a dozen contempt of court cases. I'm reading more. I want to give you one example to show you how disproportionate Tommy's sentence is in contrast with some others. Now, I haven't done a full study of it. I've only been poking around for a day, but you can do it too. And in fact, I'll put the website that I am studying from in the comment section so you can do homemade poking around yourself. I always recommend against being a homemade lawyer, but you can read these decisions and see with your own eyes how rare it is to have a severe sentence like Tommy's. In fact, I have yet to find one, and I'm working my way back in time. Before let's start by playing this video just to set the table for those who haven't seen it. I will review some of the super chats that have come in now. I'll address those as soon as we're out of the video. And then I want to make my case to you that there are 2 grounds upon which I believe Tommy should be released from prison, granted bail, a proper hearing scheduled, and why the sentence he received was inappropriate, and in fact, it may be that no sentence at all is appropriate. So play the clip, please.
The content of what I'm streaming, I'm being arrested for breach.
Are you arresting him?
Been arrested for breach of the peace. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. Can you get me a solicitor? Can you get me a solicitor?
Can you just turn off your live feed?
Can you get me a solicitor?
Just turn off your live feed, please.
Yeah?
Do you understand what I've just
No, can you explain it again?
arrested on suspicion causing a breach of the peace?
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean, officer?
One question, subject which you may
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
I've been told that under the police doing the case.
Not at all, I've never said that.
That's the information I've got.
I'm inciting people. I'm inciting people.
His video
How have I incited people?
He hasn't.
This is free speech. This is where we're at. You're not even allowed to. Look at this.
Look how many people.
Man, what are you trying to hide? Do you know when you do this? More people.
You only sharp things are lighters. Just let him do this.
More people are going to watch this now than ever. This is ridiculous, lads. Do you feel right what you're doing here? I haven't said a word. In fact, someone laid their hand and assaulted me outside court. Yeah, exactly. Other people have swore at me and threatened me about my mother, and here I am being arrested for saying nothing.
I'm threatened to behead me. I've done nothing. You've not said anything about
What are you arresting you for, Tommy?
Breach of the peace. Apparently I'm inciting on my video. Can you please, George, get me a solicitor?
Yeah.
Because I'm on a suspended sentence, you see. So
he has actually done nothing wrong.
You can sort anything like that.
There you have it. We've all seen that before. That's Tommy being whisked off the street by 7 policemen. We also have an image we showed you of the judge staring down from the courthouse at the hubbub in the streets. Now, I should tell you, and we'll just show that if we have that handy. I'm sure we don't have that at our fingertips, but I think you've seen it before. It's a judge staring down at the window. Now, there was no hubbub down there. Tommy Robinson was by himself in the street. That's sort of the point. He was very careful. He did not step on court property. He did not reveal any confidences. When he read the names of the accused, he was only doing so from the BBC story. Let me show you that BBC story. We showed this yesterday. The names of the 29 accused, 27 of whom were men, 2 were women. Nesaraf Hussain, Irfan Ahmed, Zubair Ahmed, Mohammed Rizwan Aslam, Mohammed Kamar, Mohammed Naman. There's a lot of Mohammeds. I shouldn't laugh. How is this anything funny at all? But you see, this is on the website right now. This is on the BBC state broadcaster right now. The Daily Mail has a similar story right now. Tommy was merely reading things that were already in the public domain. And this is an important point I'm going to come back to later. Thanks, Justin, for showing these on screen. I just threw that at you with no notice. I've got a hard-working team here, Justin and Hannah. They try and keep up with my stream of consciousness. I try and give them in advance a clue of what I'm going to mention, but you never know what's going to pop into my mind. So what are we going to do today? We are going to talk about the reasons why Tommy, I don't think, should be in prison. And these are not emotional reasons. These are not reasons of personal affection. These are not private reasons or subjective reasons. I put it to you that I have 2 real legitimate legal reasons why Tommy should not be in jail. Before I do that, though, I'm going to read the 4 super tweets that came in, super chats. If you're kind enough to chip in a few bucks, the least I can do is read your chat, right? I see one here. I saw them come in. Let me just scroll down and find them in the comments. So there we go. Tom Youngjohn, praying for God to help Tommy. Thank you, Tom. I think he does need help, absolutely. And you know the saying, pray like it all depends on God, but work like it all depends on you. I think we need both in this case. Mr. Ghost chipped in £5, thank you, and he says, thank you for helping defend my freedom of speech in the UK. Such a shame we need outside help, but we clearly need it. I'm afraid that's true. In fact, my great feeling about this arrest of Tommy is, God forbid he's away for 13 months. God forbid worse things happen. Who would step into the breach? Who is the last lion out there? Nigel Farage did his tour of duty. I think he's semi-retired, frankly. And that's fine. He did amazing things for the UK. But who would fill his shoes? Who would fight like Tommy? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the UK well enough to say I know every activist and fighter there. But take Tommy out of the picture, who's left? Another super chat from David Risner says, what's the latest with Tommy? We need good news, please. Well, don't we? Isn't that the truth? I have not had a personal communication with Tommy. It is very difficult because he is in prison. Primus81 says, for freedom, yours and ours. Thank you very much. Okay, I think I've caught up on all the super chats. What I want to do today is I want to start with reading excerpts from the court on Friday. I have been to the British Judiciary website, and in fact, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put that website in the Super Chat panel there, so you can poke around yourself. There is a special page, and I'm just going to do this myself. I haven't done this before, but I think I'm smart enough. I'm going to paste the URL right there. Do you see that? It says Rebel Media with a little crown there, judiciary.gov.uk, and the link I just put there, if you click on it, will take you to the judgments for contempt of court in the United Kingdom. The judgment for Tommy's case is not yet there, and I don't see the transcript of the court either. Now, if someone can find those, send them to me and I'll read them. The reason I mention that is because I'm relying instead on what scant reports there are in the UK media. And I'm going to refer to an article in the BBC, that's the state broadcaster of the United Kingdom. Justin, can you please put up the BBC article that has some quotes from the court hearing on Friday? So remember, this would have been subject to the publication ban until it was lifted yesterday. Do you see this article? Ex-EDL leader Tommy Robinson jailed at Leeds Court. Why do they keep calling him an ex-EDL leader, by the way? He left the EDL, and in fact he renounced it because he felt it was going racist. That is not why Tommy is in jail. He's not in jail for anything to do with the EDL at all. That's just the BBC, the state broadcaster, they have orders, do that every time. All right, I'm going to quote, we have two quotes I'm going to highlight from the article that quote the judge on Friday. And again, I'm relying on the state broadcaster here because I cannot yet find the transcript of the full hearing. Can we put up the full quote? So this is quoting from the BBC. During Friday's hearing, Matthew Harding defending, so again, this is the public defender, and I'm sure he's a good man. I've got nothing against Matthew Harding. I have no clue who he is, but I do know two things about him. Number one, he does not know Tommy or Tommy's history or Tommy's complex legal situation. Number two, I am most certain he is not an expert in the complicated and obscure field of contempt of court law. So let me keep reading. During Friday's hearing, Matthew Harding, good guy I'm sure, but not the right man for the job, defending, claimed that his client had, quote, deep regret for what he had done. So in other words, he's basically pleading guilty. But look at that, what he had done. We're going to talk a lot more about that because what had he done? And what did Matthew Harding think he had done? And what did the judge think he had done? Deep regret for what he had done. If someone comes up to you and says, I'm sorry, and you say, for what? Well, for what I have done. Well, can you tell me what you did? Because maybe you've got a lot to be sorry for. Maybe you have nothing to be sorry for. Oh, I'm sorry, man. For what? For what I've done. Okay, put the text back up there. He was mindful, having spoken to others and taken advice, not to say things that he thought would actually prejudice these proceedings, Mr. Harding said. Yes, that is very relevant. He did not try to cause difficulties for the court process. Yes, that is true. I believe that's true. And I have a little bit of personal information about that because I was working with Tommy from here in Canada when he was arrested a year ago in Canterbury for contempt of court, and we spent an enormous amount of time, effort, and money getting him out of prison. He was briefly detained then, and it was impressed on him most deeply to be careful, not to be on court precincts with a camera, not to say rapist if they're just an accused rapist, not to violate privacy or prohibitions on publications. And Tommy was very mindful of that. So Harding got it right when he said Tommy had no intention. But the law of contempt of court is strict. You don't have to prove, in a regular criminal act, you have to prove intent. A quick example for those who are unfamiliar, the Latin word is mens rea, mental guilt. So if you accidentally brush up against someone in a narrow alley, that is not assault or battery. You accidentally brushed up against them in a crowded subway, let's say. That is not assault, because it may have been the actus reus, the act of an assault, but if the mental element is not there, right, as opposed to purposefully punching someone. Tommy Robinson clearly did not have the mental intent, the mens rea, the guilty mind, of committing the crime that was alleged of violating the contempt of court in a criminal manner. Obviously, Tommy did not have the mental aspect, the mens rea. But the thing about contempt of court, it is a strict offense that does not require the mental element. If you did it, you did it. And that's the problem here. Please put up the second quote from this story. Judge Jeffrey Marson, QC, that's the judge who put the prohibition ban, said, and again, I'm relying on the BBC because we don't have transcripts yet. Not only was it a very long video, but I regard it as a serious aggravating feature that he was encouraging others to share it, and it had been shared widely. That is the nature of the contempt. Now there is another passage, I don't think I have it here, where the judge says, I'll come up, I'll refer to this one later, where the judge indicates he did not watch the entire thing. I don't have that quote here with me, but you know that's true because the entire contempt of court hearing on Friday was very brief. It was a matter of minutes. Yet Tommy's broadcast that preceded that arrest by 7 cops that I showed you was more than an hour. I know because I watched it. It was actually extremely long. Tommy was just killing time. He was standing there, standing, and he was just filling the airtime, telling stories, giving background, giving his thought. I mean, I thought it was quite entertaining. Tommy's he's quite good at chatter. He's loquacious. But the fact that the judge did not watch the whole thing is extremely important. So that's all the BBC reported, and I could not find any other excerpts in other British papers, and as yet I cannot find them online. Now look right underneath the story. This is the third quote. Go ahead and put this up. This is on the same page, so right underneath it, the BBC engages in a little bit of propaganda. So they're trying to say Tommy's a bad man. Why Contempt of Court Matters by Dominique Casciani, BBC Home Affairs correspondent. So just in case you're thinking wrong thoughts, people, the BBC will tell you the right way to think about this. Let me quote. This is not some new form of censorship directed at Robinson. These are rules that apply to all of us equally. All right, I'm going to come back to that because that is not true. If he is unsure about that, he's now got time on his hands. That's a good one. He's got time on his hands, everybody. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. The BBC, they're great, eh? These are the rules that apply to all of us equally. If he is unsure about that, he's now got time on his hands to read a copy of Essential Law for Journalists. Oh, man. Oh, the BBC, they're great, eh? Yeah, Tommy's got time. Yeah. That's a state broadcaster for you. That's a government journalist laughing that Tommy's got time on his hands and maybe he should study the law. Well, you know what? I think, in fact, a lawyer should study the law, and a judge who throws someone in prison for a video should probably watch the video first, don't you think? But no lectures from the BBC about judges being paid to spend time to read the law and watch the video upon which they condemn a man to 13 months in prison. Don't you think that's important? And here's my point, and I showed you that the BBC, and I think we have the Daily Mail showing the same thing. If we don't, it's not important. Every medium in the UK reported this Huddersfield rape gang trial. They named the 29 accused, 27 men, 2 women. Tommy was just reading that in public. Here's my 2 reasons why I think Tommy has legal grounds to be bailed, to have a proper hearing, and in the end, to not serve a day. And in fact, to receive an apology, I believe, for wrongful imprisonment. And here's why. Number 1, he pled guilty is what it sounds like, and I've heard that reported elsewhere. The fact that he's full of regret. You're full of regret, that's what you say when you plead guilty. You're asking for a sort of mercy from the court. But pled guilty to what? Apologized for what? For what he had done. I showed you that from the BBC. But no one in that court knew what he had done other than Tommy himself. The judge who threw Tommy in jail did not know what he had said. The lawyer who defended Tommy may have watched the whole thing. Frankly, I doubt he did. Because if he did, he would have said, you really didn't do anything wrong. And maybe he would have said, Your Honor, we need some time to go through this because I believe there may be a defense here. Instead, he was railroaded. And Tommy, you saw him. Remember the end of the clip? Call my lawyer. George, call my lawyer. Call my lawyer. Call my lawyer. Call my solicitors, what they call it over the UK. Do you see my point? He didn't get his solicitor. He got some public defender. And so he was unmoored. Tommy knew he was in jeopardy because he had that suspended sentence from a year ago in Canterbury. He was being railroaded. The lawyer he was assigned didn't know him from Adam, didn't understand Facebook Live, didn't know, even I know Tommy's legal backstory, part of it, because I was part of the project in Canterbury, right? So Tommy's regular lawyer would have known the history. The lawyer who pled Tommy out probably didn't even know the full extent of Tommy's jeopardy because of the suspended sentence. So you had a lawyer who was improperly briefed, didn't know Tommy's background, may not have even known about the Canterbury suspended sentence. I don't think he actually watched the full 70-minute live stream. On that improper basis, obviously counseled Tommy, who was stressed, shocked, surprised, maybe even afraid, counseled Tommy to plead guilty. And I know enough about the law to know that when you plead guilty, you expect some sort of a magnanimous response from the court because you're pleading guilty, you're accepting guilt, you're expressing regret, you're apologizing as Tommy did, and maybe you're going to get a lenient sentence. He did not. He did not at all. He got the most extreme sentence you can imagine. I put it to you that we know for a fact the judge did not watch the whole thing. He was looking out his window at Tommy. He wasn't watching the live stream. The judge did not know what Tommy did before he sentenced him. I put it to you, the lawyer did not know what Tommy did before he advised him to plead guilty. I put it to you, the lawyer who counseled him to plead guilty likely, in fact surely, did not know the full extent of Tommy's past legal situation. I know for a fact that the lawyer who represented Tommy on Friday was not part of our three-man legal dream team in Canterbury a year ago, where we had outstanding top-notch lawyers with an expertise in this field. I know for a fact that his duty counsel, his public defender, did not know the background, did not know the history, did not have the benefit of the legal memos and briefs that were produced a year ago in Canterbury. That is tantamount to not having legal counsel. If your legal counsel is not properly briefed, if your legal counsel does not know your legal history and the particulars of your situation, if the legal counsel does not have the benefit of legal advice that was paid for and drafted for your benefit in the matters of contempt of court, that is not effective legal advice. That is not effective legal representation. It's a railroading. And Tommy, I know Tommy enough that he doesn't bend the knee to every cop or judge who presents. Tommy knows that occasionally you're guilty, but quite often you're not. And I believe that if Tommy had in his hands, had with him rather, a lawyer who was properly briefed, an expert in the matter, and had said, you can fight it on this, or this ground, or we'll argue in this way, I'm sure Tommy would have taken that option. I'm quite sure in this case he was not given that option. Those are the two things, and there's two reasons I put there. Number one, the judge did not see all the facts in front of him. He condemned Tommy for an innocuous video that contained nothing within it that was more contemptuous of the court than anything published by the BBC or the Mail Online. Don't you see how important that is? Tommy apologized. For what did he apologize? Tommy's not a lawyer. You know the saying, a man who represents himself is a fool for a client. You ever heard that saying? Because you may think you're the best lawyer, but you have blind spots about yourself. You don't know what you look like. You are too emotionally attached to this fact or that argument that someone with perspective can say, no, that's not the issue here, Tommy. Tommy was clearly led to believe in some way, perhaps by his under-informed lawyer, that he ought to plead guilty. Either that he had done something for which he must plead guilty, or that if he pled guilty, he would get some sort of lenience. Neither of those things happened. The judge did not know what Tommy did when he called it contempt. I put it to you that Tommy's own lawyer did not know what he did when he recommended pleading guilty to contempt. And even if what was in that 70-minute video was contemptuous, of course, even if, and I put it to you and I've said to you all week that I do not believe that is the case, but even if it was the case, why was there this unseemly rush to judgment? From arrest to prison, 5 hours maybe. The court hearing itself, a matter of minutes. What was so essential that we needed to race to prison without a hearing, that we couldn't do what we did in Canterbury a year ago, which is Tommy's bailed on strict conditions. And I remember when Tommy got out of, Tommy was arrested at 4 a.m. He was taken to Canterbury. He had his first appearance. We sent the lawyers up there. Tommy was released. They had to go back to court a week or two later. Tommy was under strict instructions, and we all really helped him stay by him. Don't say a word about this. Don't say a word about anything until we have the proper hearing. Why couldn't Tommy have been released on bail for a week or even for 5 days to have a proper defense and being told, Tommy, don't you do anything. Just go silent. Why couldn't the judge have said, I will let you get proper representation, meet with your regular lawyers, and you will come back here, sir, and we'll have a proper hearing. Why was it so essential to rush to a judgment without a proper lawyer or proper time? Why was that? Why? I put it to you that the lack of a proper lawyer, the fact that the judge in question here did not review the whole matter, I put it to you that is grounds for setting aside the guilty plea. To set aside a guilty plea and to have a proper hearing of the matter. I want to show you some things that were brought to my attention. Let me take a second and read some super chats. I think some have come up. James Brain says, there is a photo of the judge from a window as Tommy Robinson was being arrested. This makes the judge a witness to Tommy Robinson's arrest. He should not have been the sentencing judge because of that. Well, we talked about this. Yeah, there's the picture there. Thanks very much, Justin, for getting that. Well, that's what's so weird about this, and we talked about this at length in yesterday's show. Contempt of court, the judge who's angry, the judge who feels he has been treated with contempt, is also the judge of his own contempt. Do you see what I mean? In any other normal situation, you have the pro and the con and a neutral decider, the plaintiff, the defendant, the prosecution, the accused. Not in contempt of court. A judge who is offended gets to judge his own degree of offendedness and gets to mete out judgment about his own case. Isn't that strange? Let me see if there's other super chats that I've missed. I don't think there are. I want to show you, I may have one here. Give me 1 second. If there's a super chat, I don't want to miss it. David Risner chipped in $2. Thank you. Says, why would Tommy plead guilty? I don't believe that. I do believe it because I know a man who was railroaded into pleading guilty for a very heavy matter because he was told what would happen to him if he didn't. And he later applied to have that guilty plea set aside, and it was miraculous. He did get the guilty plea set aside, and the entire case was dropped. Whenever you hear someone saying, I didn't do it, I pled guilty, I didn't mean to, there's a natural skepticism. But I believe that Tommy was railroaded. I believe he was told, plead guilty and it'll be better for you. If you don't, it'll be much worse. That's why I believe Tommy pled guilty. And I also believe that Tommy didn't know what he was apologizing for. You see what I mean? The judge didn't know. It's like three people having a conversation. Are you sorry for what you did? Yes, I'm deeply sorry for what I did. And each of them has a different idea of what they're talking about because no one actually aired the facts. Kappa Dessau chipped in 22, that looks like Norwegian kroner. Hugh the Borg, resistance is not futile. Well, it feels pretty futile, but I think we must resist. Meb3, 10 pounds, thank you. If the judge has decided the sharing of the court case was a contempt of court, then surely his actions blowing this story up, he is contempt of his own court. Well, that's just layers upon layers, isn't it? This is a very strange situation. I want to tell you some ideas that were first bruited by Jack Montgomery of Breitbart London. I want to give him a shout out because I've been thinking about some of his ideas. So let's assume, let's grant, and I don't do this, but just for the sake of argument, that what Tommy did in that 70-minute live stream was contemptuous of court. I've said to you 5 times why I don't think that's the case. He wasn't on court property. He did not say they were convicted. He just said they were alleged. He did not reveal anything that was not in the public, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was the last day of the trial, et cetera. But let's say that Tommy talking about a case that was before trial was contemptuous. I dispute that. Take a look at this picture. You might recognize this. This is Count Dankula, not his real name. When he was on trial very recently for his training his girlfriend's dog to raise its paw when he said Heil Hitler. It was a goofy, goofy, goofy joke. Do we have an image? So hold this on the screen for a minute here. So this is a mainstream media publication, I think it's the Daily Record. Man behind Nazi pug video told court Jewish comedian supported his joke. Mark Meekin, that's the real name of Count Dankula, said his video only caused offense because it was taken out of context. So what are we talking about here? We're showing the accused. We're describing what went on in court. There was massive media coverage. I don't think we have the image handy, but I'm sure everyone who's watching this has seen it, of the court being jammed with reporters. This is one case where the mainstream media didn't stay away. They were on court property. Let me show you just another example. Channel 4. Show the Channel 4 one. This is Channel 4. That's the news station made famous by Jordan Peterson. Scroll down a little bit if you can, because I want to show this picture. Do you see that they are on a court precinct there? Do you see they are on the sidewalk? There's so many reporters there that they are literally pressed against the wall of the court. That's what Tommy was arrested for in Canterbury. That's why he was so careful not to be on the sidewalk. He was in the street. So when Channel 4 does it and those 20 journalists do it, it's cool, but not Tommy. And then one more example. This is about a rape gang case. And again, Jack Montgomery of Breitbart is the guy who gave me this idea. Show the Coventry live. Here we go. Teenage girl says she was groomed before being raped by 2 men, court hears. The girl's police interview was played to a jury today. This is completely normal court reportage in North America and in the UK. So this was a rape gang trial. I think this was in Coventry. It's describing the goings-on in there. This would be incendiary facts, I suppose, but completely lawful. There was no contempt of court hearing here. For those of you who watch Tommy's Facebook Live, you'll know that he did not even get into that detail. Tommy did not actually describe the goings-on in the court, because Tommy wasn't in the court, he was outside the court. Do you see why I showed you these last 3 images? Number 1, Count Dankula being reported on before the verdict. Number 2, all those reporters crushed up against the wall, and a story about it on Channel 4. And then number 3, this Coventry story about a rape gang. Do you understand why I'm showing you those? To show you that merely discussing the incendiary matters inside a court is not by definition contempt of court. And I say again, if you watch Tommy's Facebook Live, which the judge did not do, Tommy did not talk about the particulars inside the courthouse. He wouldn't know because he wasn't in there. He was giving a general commentary about the phenomenon of rape gangs in the UK. Do you understand now the importance of the fact that Tommy said, I'm sorry, but sorry for what? The judge might have thought he did something else that he was apologizing for. If the judge didn't know what he actually said because the judge was peering down from a brick wall behind a glass, the judge didn't know what Tommy said. Someone might have whispered in the judge's ear, oh, he said this, he said that. Instead of watching the 70-minute video, the judge assumed the worst, perhaps based on gossip and rumor. And he said, oh, you done something wrong. And Tommy said, well, I'm sorry. And they were both thinking of completely different things. And I don't even think his lawyer watched it. Have I missed any super chats? One has come by. Let me read it. Thank you, by the way, for these super chats. They're a great way to make your chat stand out. I can't find it here. My friends will email it to me and I'll read it. Oh, I think I saw it there. Nerdy Dove. With this and what happened with Alfie Evans and Dankula, the UK Tories, I think you mean Tories, seem completely corrupt. Well, listen, you're blaming this on one political party. I tell you that politicians are just part of it. You know, Daniel Pipes of the Middle East Forum, he talks about the 5 P professionals. Politicians, the press, police, prosecutors, and professors. By coincidence, they all start with a P. It's a good way to remember them. That's a shorthand for the establishment. And the entire establishment in the UK is complicit. It's not just the Tories, and it's not just politicians. The politicians couldn't do this without the complicity of the press, and the prosecutors and the police, and the judge, I suppose, and the professors. Sometimes Daniel Pipes added another P, priests, because unfortunately sometimes even Christian priests are going along with this. Let me check the clock. It's 12:35. I want to show you a little bit of research that I've done, and I don't know if you saw the link I posted there. You can do more research of your own, but can you put up on the screen a Courts and Tribunals Judiciary publication? Yeah, that's the one. Now, friends, we're going to take a minute here, and if you don't like it, that won't hurt my feelings if you click away. But if you want to learn a little bit about contempt of court rulings, stay with me, okay? I'm going to spend about 10 minutes on this. You can find this. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to post the link right in there. Okay, I don't know if you saw that. I just put the link to this ruling so you can follow along. So what is this? As you can see, this is a website with every contempt of court ruling in the UK. Now, they're not full transcripts. They're the rulings, or the orders as they're called. In this case, it's sentencing remarks, which is tantamount to an order. So I was just going through a few of them. And this one here was at Salisbury. Wiltshire County Council versus Jake Cook. Sentencing remarks. We're going to go through this. This is from last September, not too long ago. And why am I going through this? You'll see soon it's someone who serially violated court orders and the will of the court. On 25th of May 2017, the court made an order against Jake Cook, which included a provision forbidding him from entering an area bordered in red on an attached plan, which included Sparrow Street. The order was made without notice, having been given to Jake Cook, and a return date. The order was personally served that same day with other documents. Do you see that? So an order was made banning Jake Cook from a certain place. I don't know why, but he was banned. Something Jake Cook did. On June 11th, after having received the order on the 30th, Jake Cook was arrested for attending a property at 19 Sparrow Street. He was brought to court on June 12th. The court was unable to deal with the matter that day, yada, yada. Point 4. So far we have you're banned from going to a certain place. You were served with that ban so you knew about it. Then you went there and you were arrested and you came to court. Okay, so you're already breaking the rules. You did something wrong to begin with. You were banned from a place. Then you broke that ban. Are you with me so far? I have no idea what this guy Jake Cook did. I'm just reading. On the 28th of June 2017, Jake Cook failed to answer his bail. Okay, so he's out on bail and he didn't come back. So what's this? Is this his third thing he's done wrong now? District Judge Brooks then proceeded to hear evidence in the defendant's absence and found that the breach had been proved according to the criminal standard. The judge adjourned the sentence until the defendant could be brought to court, and he issued a warrant for the defendant's arrest. Okay, then that judge retired. And so there's a new judge. I'm on point 6 now. I'm almost done. I have considered all that the defendant has said today in mitigation. The defendant told the court that his mother died 3.5 months ago, and the last couple months he's been suffering with stress. He explained the recent history with his kids, and the dog ate his breakfast. Oh, this is my favorite. He has now found work. He wants to pursue a career in the music industry. Well, that's a sure path to financial security and getting your life back on track, isn't it? So let me read paragraph 7. In sentencing the defendant today, there are 3 objectives. The first is punishment. The second is to secure compliance. The third is rehabilitation. I take into account this is the first breach of the order on May 25th. I'm satisfied the defendant knew that by attending Sparrow Street he would be breaching the order. It is material that the breach occurred within 11 days of being served with the order, as in he wouldn't have forgotten about it. I'm satisfied that a custodial sentence is appropriate, and that the sentence shall be one of 14 days imprisonment. In order to secure compliance, I consider it's appropriate the sentence should be suspended. Consequently, I intend to suspend the sentence until 25th of May 2018. The sentence is suspended on condition that there no further breach of the order be done. If there's a breach, blah, blah, blah. So do you see what I'm talking about here? Jay Cook broke the law doing something wrong, I don't know. So he was ordered not to go to Sparrow Street. I'm curious what's at Sparrow Street now, aren't you? He broke that, violated it. Okay. He was out on bail. He broke his bail. So he did something wrong in the first place. He had a ban on going somewhere. He broke that. He was supposed to come to court. He didn't. He finally comes to court. He has some sob story about being stressed. Who the hell isn't stressed? You don't think Tommy's under stress? And what happened here? So how many breaches here? Is that 3 breaches? Would you agree with me? There's 3 things he did wrong? And did you understand the sentence here? Nothing. 14 days in prison, suspended. Really? So you break the law 3 times. And this judge says, well, you know, he's stressed out and he's going to have a great career in the music industry. Do you see why I give this example? That's contempt of court when you're not Tommy Robinson. I want to give you one more example. And I'll post it on the screen, so bear with me. This example is too good. This example, I'm going to put it in the comment myself, okay? So if you want to follow along, I just put it there. You can see the Rebel Media. It's got the check mark and the little crown business there. It's 1241. This one's going to be of interest to you. I know it. Do you guys have that in the control room there? Yeah. Look at that. Do you recognize these names, people? In the High Court of Justice, Queen's Bench Division, Media and Communications List, the Honorable Mr. Justice Warby, sitting in the Royal Courts of Justice. This is fancy law, people. This ain't no Sparrow Street business in Salisbury. This is fancy. And look at that. Between George Galloway and Aisha Ali Khan. Wow, this is a little bit famous, isn't it? Upon the application of the applicants, dated February 20th. So George Galloway and Aisha Ali Khan are fighting. And there were 2 previous court orders you might see. Let me skip down here. It is... Let's skip ahead, Pat. I want to skip ahead. Okay, I'm going to come back to the order. Can you scroll down to where it says Annex to Application Notice? Yeah, scroll down. You see? Okay, yeah, perfect. What I'm about to read, and I'm not going to read all of it, I'm going to read how many times Miss Ali Khan breached her conditions. And I'm just Googling it here. Yeah. By the way, just in case you're wondering, Aisha Ali Khan is a former aide to George Galloway. I'm just gonna post that in the thread also. Okay, I just post the link there so you can read that on your own time. So this is George Galloway, fancy guy, and Aisha Ali Khan, very handsome young lady who was an aide. And you'll see in that Times story, she was at risk for going to jail for 2 years for insulting him on Twitter. Welcome to the UK. Not a lot of freedom of speech in the UK, is there? Is there? Okay, let's get back to how the court treated that. Okay, sir, I just wanted to tell you who Aisha Ali Khan is, and all the Brits watching know who George Galloway is. He's the crazy, Hamas-loving, socialist Brit. Do you see it says breach 1? Miss Ali Khan breached undertaking she gave to the court back in June 20th, 2016. And do you see it says breach 1? She published this on a blog. She published that. Breach number 2. She published another blog. I'm just scrolling. I'm not going to read all this. Breach number 3. She tweeted when I complained to my ex-boss, his mate for 30 years. Breach number 4, Miss Ali Khan breached the undertakings by tweeting. Breach 5, Miss Ali Khan breached the undertakings. Breach 6, Miss Ali Khan breached it. Scroll, breach 7, breach 8, breach 9, breach 10. Keep scrolling, breach 11. Do you get my point here? We're not even half done, people. Breach 15, breach 16, breach 20. Scroll all the way down. Scroll. What am I showing you? I am showing you that Aisha Ali Khan, George Galloway's former assistant, broke a court order 26 times, referring to litigation before the courts. 26 times. If you're bored, you can read all of them. Okay, now, Justin, scroll all the way back to the top, okay? Those were just the 26 examples. So let's recap here. You got George Galloway, that crazy Hamas-loving politician. You got his very pretty former aide, Aisha Ali Khan. I'm sure it was just a professional relationship. They're embroiled in litigation, as is always the case with Galloway. Aisha Ali Khan makes undertakings to the court on several occasions, it appears, not to talk about things in public. You with me so far? It's a pretty simple case, and you see the similarities with the case involving Tommy. Did she breach the undertaking? Yes, she did. 26 times. Not once, not twice, not 20 times, 26 times. As Abraham Lincoln would say, 6 and score years ago. 26 breaches. So let's go back to the top of that, okay? Order for committal. So this is when Aisha Ali Khan's getting in trouble now. I'm going to read this whole thing because it's gorgeous. Upon the application of the applicant, that's George Galloway, and upon the court having adjourned the issue of what penalty to impose upon the respondent, and upon having regard to the 2 court orders, March 22nd and April 17th. Keep scrolling, scroll a little bit. Upon reading the respondent's first affidavit, and upon the undertaking by counsel to verify, and upon hearing blah, 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 it is ordered that the respondent's affidavit will be verified, yada, yada. Look at point 3. For her contempt, the respondent stand committed to prison for a total period of 12 weeks. I don't know if you saw that Times story. Do you guys in the control room need that Times story? I'll send it to you if you didn't quite see it there. So you got Aisha Ali Khan quarreling with Roger Galloway. There are not 1 but 2 court orders saying to Aisha, shush now, this is a matter of litigation. Do not talk in public about this. Are you with me? You got 2 famous people who happen to be left-wing. Islamists, in fact, in the case of George Galloway. He loves Hamas. 26 breaches, not 1, 26. And she gets 12 weeks in prison. Here, show the story just for a second if you didn't see it. Aisha Ali Khan, former aide to George Galloway, may face jail. It's true. It's true. The former parliamentary assistant to George Galloway, who once claimed that she had to buy underwear for him, is facing a possible 2 years in jail for insulting him on Twitter. The lengthy, bitter, and colorful feud between Aisha Ali Khan and the former MP returned to the High Court yesterday. Ms. Ali Khan apologized in person to Judge Warby for 26 contempts of court. 26 contempts of court, people, for breaching the judge's order to stop making derogatory comments about Mr. Galloway. Can I just read one more? Miss Ali Khan, 36, became a Commons assistant in 2012, but they fell out when he accused her of trysts with a policeman at his home. These are the best people, by the way. I mean, for some reason I'm reminded of Anthony Weiner and Huma Abedin there. Just to be clear, she didn't go to prison because she was insulting George Galloway. She went to prison for 12 weeks. My math tells me that's 3 months, which is a fair bit of time, because she broke the judge's order 26 times. So 26 breaches of 2 court orders. yields 12 weeks in prison. Now, 12 weeks in prison is not fun. But it's a lot less than 13 months in prison, ain't it? And you notice one other thing. She had time to have a lawyer. Had a lot of lawyers. The judge didn't think it was critical to send Aisha Ali Khan to prison within hours, did it? Did he? Why? Was there some reason that she had to be put in jail before lunchtime? In fact, 26 breaches happened before she was even hauled in. And how did I find this case? I mean, I'm familiar with George Galloway. I was not familiar with Aisha Ali Khan. I know George Galloway has a lot of things going on. I just started working. That link I put up beforehand, you can read every single contempt of court case yourself. If you're bored, I encourage you to do it. It's very interesting reading. Funny cases. I'm curious what was on that Sparrow Road in Salisbury. This Aisha Ali Khan story is very instructive because there were not one but two court orders against it. High profile, in violation of court orders to not talk about pending litigation in public. She was convicted. 12 weeks is not nothing, but it ain't 13 months. And she was allowed to get a lawyer and instruct the lawyer and prepare a case. Why wasn't Tommy? Why was it so imperative for Tommy Robinson to be thrown in prison immediately? Not even a phone call to his wife or family. Couldn't even chat with his lawyer, who I understand was on a plane at the time. Why does Aisha Ali Khan get 12 weeks? I'm not saying that's nothing, although I bet she was out early. Everyone gets out early. Tommy ain't getting out early unless there's an appeal. It's 12:51. I don't want to spend too much time because we only have 9 minutes left. I see there's another super chat. Ezra says, sorry to go off topic, Ezra, but I was wondering if the Rebel were currently hiring. Is there somewhere I can apply for a position or send in a resume? Yeah, you can email us at career@therebel.media. It's on our website. I think there's one more super chat. Let me find that. French Toast Mafia says, is it true that Tommy gave the judge a fake address? I have not heard that. I don't think it's relevant, even if it were true. If it were true, and we're speculating here, and there's so many rumors out that I would not rely on that. I know for a fact that Tommy is in challenging situations because when his personal residence is anywhere publicized, terrorists and would-be murderers literally come to his house. So if he would have given the judge a different address where the judge... it's not hard to find Tommy Robinson. The police know exactly where he lives. If Tommy didn't want to say in open court where his home address was, I quite understand, because he would then have to sell his house and move. Or worse, God forbid, his family would be in jeopardy. There's one more super chat. Let me see if I can find it quickly. V6, rock on, Rebel. Ezra, you're the best. Well, thank you very much. It's 12:53. Can I sum up what we talked about today? We talked about two things. We talked about what went on Friday that should not have gone on, and we talked about other sentences for contempt of court. Let me wrap up for those who have joined now. Tommy Robinson was sentenced to contempt of court for what he said in a 70-minute Facebook live stream that the judge did not see. So how does the judge know Tommy was in contempt of court if the judge did not see it or did not see all of it? How is that even possible? I also suggest that it's quite likely that the lawyer did not watch the full video. We know for a fact that the lawyer did not know Tommy, his background, have access to Tommy's files on contempt of court, and was surely not an expert in contempt of court. So we know that Tommy did not have effective legal counsel. Sure, he had someone standing there who was a barrister, a solicitor, whichever of the split profession he was. I forget how it works in the UK. Sure, it was a lawyer, but wasn't an informed lawyer. Wasn't a lawyer with the expertise. Wasn't a lawyer who knew the client. Wasn't a lawyer who had access to the client's files in the specific field of contempt of court law. But somehow Tommy was convinced to plead guilty, either because the lawyer at hand said, you got to do it, or because you're so guilty. or because the lawyer may have led Tommy to believe if he pled guilty there would be a lenient outcome, neither of which happened. So I put it to you, number one, Tommy had ineffective representation and his guilty plea should be withdrawn and the matter should be retried. The second and obvious point is why the rush? Why was it essential to get this done so speedily? That's another reason to set aside the sentence, withdraw the guilty plea, and have a proper hearing. That's one of the things we spent our time today talking about. But the second thing I think is just as important. Would you not agree with me that Aisha Ali Khan and George Galloway are high-profile people in a high-profile litigation? It's different in character than a rape gang trial in Leeds, I grant you that. But there was not one but two court orders against Aisha Ali Khan not to blab about it, not to talk about it. And she breached those two orders not one time, but 26 times. And unlike Tommy, she obviously did so willfully. Tommy was trying his best to be very careful not to do so. Can you explain for me why Tommy's in prison for 13 months for an inadvertent breach, which I suggest was not actually a breach, whereas Aisha Ali Khan was sentenced to just 12 weeks, and I know that's a sentence. I don't know if she served it all. I doubt she did. Why the double standard? I showed you the other case of, was it Jake Cook from Salisbury, who did something wrong, broke a court-ordered ban on where to go, broke a bail order, and the judge says, well, I'll give you a few days, but I'm going to suspend that sentence because you told me you're going to become a rock star, and so you're really on your path again. Not a day, not a day, not a day for him. It's obvious why. It's obvious why. By the way, the rule of law means no one is above the law. It also means no one is below the law. It means if you're fancy, you have to be held to the law, but if you're unfancy, if you're working class, if you're a Tommy Robinson, if you're the people that everyone looks down their nose at, you still have the same rights. Isn't that what the rule of law means? I see a super chat from Cromwell 13649. If a political activist had been thrown in jail, the press had been prevented from reporting it anywhere else in the world, you'd see British politicians falling over themselves to condemn it. Oh yeah, where's Amal Clooney? You don't think Amal Clooney would have been all over it? Oh, I tell you she would. Where's Amnesty International? They're a UK outfit, aren't they? Maybe they were French or something. Where's Amnesty? Where's Bono? Where's Bono? Oh, he'd be all over it if it was some lefty. Where's J.K. Rowling? Because she's big into free expression, being an author and an artiste. Where is she? Where is she? It's 12:57. What we do every day at 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 9 a.m. on the West Coast, is we have this little chat. I hope I've read all the super chats that came through. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to look at some of the others. Maybe I'll just close the show that way. We've got 2 minutes. Conservative active, he pleaded guilty because his dumb lawyer told him to. I'm not going to call his lawyer dumb. I'm going to call his lawyer inexperienced in the area of contempt of court law, most likely, and completely unfamiliar with Tommy's background. But so he's not dumb. He's just completely ill-suited, and he should have tried to get some sort of an adjournment. He should certainly not have tried to convince Tommy to plead guilty. That's my view. Frank M., where's Nigel? I wish British conservatives, and I mean lowercase c, not capital C, stood with Tommy, and they can preface it by saying, oh, I don't agree with all his tactics. Yeah, we know that. We know that. But that's the thing about free speech. You have to stand up for people, even if you don't like them or agree with them, because if you want free speech for yourself, you have to stand up for others as well. I wish Nigel would engage here. The current head of UKIP, Gerard Batten, I think is his name, has, give him credit. I'll read a couple more here. Test Tommy's IQ. Listen, I don't know the full extent of his schooling, but I don't think he had post-secondary education. I can assure you, he is one of the brightest people I've met, extremely well-read. His vocabulary is large. Yeah, there's a lot of swearing in there too for punctuation. But if for a second you don't think Tommy is bright, you don't understand Tommy. Listen, I went to university for 7 years. Tommy can hold his own with me on any subject. And I am a student of his when it comes to the matter of Islam. Let me put it this way. Tommy Robinson had the #1 best-selling book in the UK several times, including for his book, an annotated Quran. Tommy can go toe-to-toe with any scholar of theology there is. It's almost 1 p.m., so we're going to wrap up. I feel like I covered some ground here. I feel like we talked about something new, which is precedents in the United Kingdom for contempt of court, including political, repeated, brazen contempt of court in the case of Aisha Ali Khan. Would you agree with me on that? Would you agree with me that perhaps that is the better comparator than the case of Jake Cook in Salisbury, 9 Sparrow Road? Would you agree with me that if someone breaks an order 26 times, 2 orders, and they get 12 weeks, that it's insane for Tommy to get 13 months? Would you agree with me on that? Especially since Aisha Ali Khan had time to hire and instruct a proper lawyer. I say again, Tommy should have his guilty plea set aside. He should be released from prison on bail. He should have the right to a proper hearing. It's 1 p.m., so I'm going to sign off. For those of you who are interested, every day at 8 p.m. Eastern, I have a show behind a paywall. It's called the Ezra Levant Show. It's more scripted. It's less rambly. I don't take comments like this. I read some letters at the end. You're welcome to subscribe to that at therebel.media/shows. For those of you who like this super chat format, I'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. Until then, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, keep fighting for freedom.